Joining me right now, and I'm pretty sure he might agree with me on this. I swear his background looks something like out of Cold War, Call of Duty Cold War. I'm looking at he always calls us from the most interesting places. Our good friend Stephen Yates, foreign policy expert, had advised Dick Cheney in the Bush White House, and former head of Radio Free Asia. He joins us now. Stephen, what is your take on this? Because I don't think that we should be going to the Olympics at all whatsoever. I normally I don't actually call for boycotts, but I think in this case, it's an interest of national security, and we should. What say you?
Well, I wrote a piece for the Daily Caller some time ago, and I basically said to boycott Beijing, and they should move the Olympics to Japan. And there were a couple of fundamental reasons for it. I mean, number one, Japan got screwed by the China flu. And so they had to delay their Olympics, and then they had to have a minimized Olympics. There was much less coverage of it. They made less money, probably lost money doing it. And here's a safe country, a reliable ally, none of the issues you have in sending anyone to China. They deserved to benefit from hosting a successful Winter Games. They could do it in a snap. They've done it before. But then there's all the negatives about China. But I tried to make the positive case for why it should move. But of course, the International Olympic Committee can't find a soul, can't find a brain, can't figure out how to do all this stuff. And so they're going to go along, get along, and pretend like everything's cool beans. And so that's where it's going. But I called for the boycott a while ago, and a lot of people said they were much smarter than me. I didn't understand things. Maybe I didn't have enough experience in government. Maybe I don't understand China enough, whatever. But I just see no point in engaging in this. It's a massive commercial enterprise. And so it's just going to make all the companies that do business with slave labor, bad environmental practices, no quality control, more money. And so why do it?
You know, for someone to say that Stephen Yates doesn't know what he's talking about, that's like telling Colonel Sanders that he doesn't know chicken. It just doesn't.
I'll take it.
That just blows my mind. I don't know. There are few people in that discuss these issues that know as much as Yates does, and I don't think anybody knows more. That's why we'd like to have you on, and why we're thankful that you're generous with us with your time. Yeah, that's because it seems. It's not like China. What do they think? Does the IOC or any of these other leaders think that China is going to go to war with us if we take away their Olympics? I mean, it's just we would actually be funding their war cause by giving them all that money to have the Olympics there. I mean, that's the correct way that I'm looking at this, right?
There's a lot of galaxy brains out there that think that because of the propaganda value of hosting the Olympics, that China is somehow not going to do threatening things to us or anybody else until after they finish this big party. They sold us that bill of goods in 2008 anyway. And so now they're going to do it again, this time with the Winter Games. And it's all going to be, kumbaya up to and through all of this. But then they say, oh, but watch out. After that's done, then Xi Jinping, the Grand Kami Supreme, is going to step on Taiwan or something else. And it's like my point of view is, well, you're basically admitting the point in advance that these guys are amped up for something that is not so peaceful a protest. And you're going to say, let's go ahead and we'll just delay preparation and we'll go ahead and send some people over there. Well, what happens when you send people into conflict zones where they're preparing to go to war? Sounds to me like whether they're journalists, athletes, students just trying to help out and see something cool, these are all potential hostages. And so I don't understand why you would support doing something like that. To me, it seems really, really dumb. But again, I apparently need to be further educated, maybe in a deep, faraway re-education camp.
Is that where the Chinese tennis star Peng Shuai, her recent videos, they've put out these recent videos after she was disappeared. I'm not saying she disappeared; she was disappeared. And the tennis organizations are saying, yeah, well, this video alone by itself is not enough to convince us that she wasn't forcibly taken out of the public eye. And plus, we don't know anything about these videos or, the context of it. She had said that the vice premier of China sexually assaulted her and then she disappeared. And I mean, this is a major, I don't even follow tennis and I've heard of this woman. I mean, she's huge.
Again, yeah, it's huge. And if you're a female athlete that's thinking of going to the Olympics, if you ever even dipped a baby pinky toe into the Me Too movement, you should be all over the Communist government of China over all this. Because, yes, there appears to be some videos where she's putting on a smiling face. And for all I know, she's very, very happy. I don't live in China. I don't know where she's been, but she accused someone powerful of something very, very evil, and she was silenced. For a long time, she was not silent. And then when she comes back, she's talking about everything except that accusation, which apparently her minders made her disavow somehow. So, I mean, I don't think anyone in China raised in that system accidentally says, one of the top guys did something really terrible to me, and I don't think something bad's going to happen to me if I say so. And so she had to have contemplated making that accusation would bring some kind of retribution. Sure looks to me like it did, but shame on anyone who lets it just sort of glide by and say, oh, yep, there's a video, all is well now.
Yeah. And then the IOC seems to just kind of be going along with it. Apparently she had a Zoom call with the IOC chief, and he said, oh, it was good to see her, all this stuff. And they didn't really, it looks like the IOC, they didn't really, they said they were relieved to see that she was doing fine, which was their main concern. And that was pretty much it.
It reminds me of the WHO having Zoom calls with China people about COVID. So, I mean, what in the world do we think we're getting when people can't see things for themselves? There is no independent press. And also, who thought tennis is where people were going to find a conscience in some of this stuff? I mean, it's a Celtics basketball star that's talking out. Now tennis is coming to the rescue. And the NBA that also sends a team to the Olympics, not the winter ones, I don't think.
Yeah.
But there's not a lot of big sponsors or big names that are sort of saying stuff about this going up toward the Winter Games. But tennis speaking up about this, frankly, surprises me. That's a big money-making opportunity for them. And I say God bless them for being honest about their skepticism about the response they're getting out of China.
Yeah, good for them for that. And doesn't that bring up some other questions? We're talking with our friend Stephen Yates at YatesComs on Twitter. Because I look at the NBA, how the NBA, they've had to kowtow to communist China. They couldn't criticize even, they couldn't show support for Taiwan or even say that Taiwan was its own country without there being a slap back from China. And we've seen this over and over again. I mean, for crying out loud, in Hollywood, they had to remove the Maverick patch on the sequel to Top Gun. So what do the United States think is going to happen, or the IOC for that matter, which I'm sure they don't care? You have all these athletes that go over to Beijing. I'm pretty sure that they're all going to be barred from speaking freely on matters of whether it has to do with communism or communist China or Taiwan. I mean, do you think that they would be given those parameters in order to go?
Well, just today, I saw something circulating on that hell site known as YouTube or on Twitter today. That was a compilation of a video of CNN correspondents talking about things about China, but the correspondent was based in Taiwan, and the live feed in China's CNN feed was the colored bars. And so it was, there they were, surprised to discover that there is a supreme amount of censorship that goes on in covering anything about or out of China if you want to use their airwaves. So the real question is, if our athletes are going to go, to whom are they ever going to be able to give the interview? Are they going to give it to the broadcast network that got megabucks in order to give the montages about 5,000 years of Chinese history that, by the way, doesn't belong to the Communist Party of China? Are they going to give the montages about the Great Wall, which, by the way, wasn't built by the Communist Party of China? Who are they going to talk to? They're going to basically have the Communist Party controlling any communications out of it, and that's basically why it's a poisonous thing to engage in. So ultimately, while I love the Texas thumpum that Senator Cruz brought to, well, if we're going to send our athletes, then let them go kick them in the can. Great, but I just don't want to have anything to do with it, because all of it is propaganda value that will be used to oppress other people, poison the world, and take jobs from others who deserve it. I just don't want any part of it.
I wish I would have seen a more hard line from Cruz on that. I was a little disappointed in that he didn't have a harder stance on that. It's just like, no, I just for that soundbite, I think let's just not have anybody go over there. That's another discussion for another time. I want to ask you about this, changing gears, looking at Russia. A Kiev general is saying, look, they're preparing to invade Ukraine by the end of January after they've amassed more than 92,000 troops on the border. How much stock do you put into this warning from this Kiev general?
Well, I never put a full stock into what a potential victim's claim is going to be, as much as I might
Right.
sympathize with the potential victim because they have a vested interest in trying to get others to rally around them. It could be that it's totally honest, legit, and they deserve help. But I don't, the United States is just no longer the 911 for dialing up a bunch of troops to come. And so where's the help going to come from? I fully support the idea of them ringing the alarm bell but passing the can around Europe first and saying, hey guys, right here, right now, there's this thing you call NATO that you guys want to celebrate all the time. And I don't disrespect the commitments that have been given and honored in the past. Great things were done by this alliance in the past, but it's got to prove that it's relevant to the now. And it needs to do that by member states that are near this conflict to muscle up and to match up so that Russia doesn't see a go signal on this kind of thing. Because if all they do is build up the troops and there's a nothing burger in response, who can be shocked if they start to roll across?
Right.
That's basically how they inchwormed their way into taking Crimea the first time. And so going further, I fear that there is a risk if there isn't some kind of response. It just shouldn't be America led.
No, I completely agree. I completely agree on that. Well, we'll see. Goodness, I would hate to think that would that it would be January, but their actions there definitely signal something. Stephen Yates, happy Thanksgiving to you, my friend. We're grateful for all your time with us this year. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dana. Take care.
Of course, you too.